right on the landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is the Morning Moment. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. Today's Morning Moment is on somebody that you've never heard of before, probably. Certainly not in this part of the world. This gentleman's name is Paul Mason, and I hope you become very familiar with that name. He's an operative who works behind the scenes in the British Labour Party. And he is very, very outspoken on where he sees the British Labour Party going. They are very confident they're going to win the next general election because they have the media behind them. But let's see how that works out. Anyway, I just want to give you a brief bio, first of all, about Paul Mason, and then I will go on a little further. First of all, Mason has lived in London since 1988. He became a freelance journalist between 1995 and 2001. He worked for Reed Business Information, a division of Reed Elsevier, and titles included Contract, Journal Community Care and Computer Weekly, of which he was deputy editor during the dot-com boom. Mason also launched eBusiness Review and was a consulting editor for the launch of CW360.com. I've never heard of that. He also contributed articles to the Daily Express and the Mail on Sunday. In 2001, Mason joined the BBC Two television channel and the programme Newsnight as a business editor. He also appeared on Newsnight, and his first appearance was September 11th, 2001. In 2007, Mason's book, Live Working or Die Fighting, How the Working Class Went Global, was published by Harville Seckler. The book was long-listed for the Guardian First Book Award on August 24, 2007. In June 2007, Mason presented Spinning Yarns, a 4-part series on the cotton industry, on BBC Radio 4. Mason appeared as the key talent in a new 5-part BBC series, Credit Crash Britain. The first broadcast on BBC Two was on October 30th, 2008. January 2012, Mason's book, Why It's Kicking Off Everywhere, The New Global Revolutions, was published in paperback by Versio. In August of 2013, it was announced that Mason would join Channel 4 News as its culture and digital editor, and in May 2014 it was announced he would become the programme's economic editor at the beginning of the month. Mason announced in February 2016 that he was leaving his position at Channel 4 in favour of freelancing so he could engage more fully in debates on the political left without constraints of impartiality placed on broadcasters in the UK. Now, if you look back through that, and you can find all that information on Wikipedia, and I will put a link to it on my website, in my mind it shows all the signs of a classic Marxist. If you know anything about the BBC and how left-leaning they are, and Channel 4 are heading that way as well, unfortunately. But you be the judge. Now I urge you to listen to his full speech that I have taken some clips from, because outside that speech they have no intention of announcing what their true intentions are. So listen to the speech because it really speaks the truth. Those of you who are old enough to remember the 3-day week, the coal miners' strike, the garbage strike, the collapse of the British car industry, know all too well what the left-wing ideology leads to, i.e. chaos and collapse. Socialism never works. It ends up with everybody living in a grey, dull, lifeless society. Remember that can't-do attitude of Britain in the 60s, 70s and even the early 80s? I do. Do the British public really want to go back to that? You know, there's a reason why they don't teach history in schools anymore. That's because it would expose the real truth about liberalism, socialism, which is a guise for nothing more than communism. Listen to these clips and make your own mind up. Your thoughts?
I suppose what I want to do is first, while we're all very high at the mere sight of what's happening, is to puncture a little bit the air of celebration and try and encourage you all to think about not worst case scenarios and the seriousness of what we're trying to do, because both Brexit and austerity were designed to screw down the working class, to reduce wages, to reduce the size of the state, and to enrich the financial elite that runs this country. But you can't do Brexit, you can't do that if Jeremy Corbyn is in power. And so what I would expect between now and the moment where Labour might come to power is that both the austerity is going to be reduced and they might even give up Brexit if the price of it is stopping us coming to power. That's why they've given an extra 2 years, so they can stop us coming to power. They fear a radical left Labour government, for definite. And they have good reason to do that, because the system they're running doesn't work. And we are the first social democratic party in the world to say, when we come to power, 30 years of neoliberalism is going to be over. Now, here is the threat. The threat is that of capital flight. We don't have the same problem that Syriza had. If Syriza actually had an advantage over us, you can't short the euro. Yeah. I mean, the euro wasn't collapsing. But it is possible that there will be both a logical attack on sterling, that is, people pull their money out because they don't want to see a Corbyn government. So if you have money in the water industry, and you've just heard John say we're going to nationalise it, you're thinking anybody with water shares right now is taking a 50-50 bet on Labour not coming to power. What I would like to see is this. We don't go for everything in the manifesto at once. I would like to see that, for me, the biggest injustice, over and above the austerity, which, as Len says, is the number one thing we're going to cancel, the biggest injustice is the injustice in the workplace. And I think that you need an emergency budget. That'll take you 90 days to even write it. I would think, for it to be meaningful. You'll need your legislation like renationalising railways, the water. That takes time. That goes through Parliament. But new workplace laws, some of which don't have to go through Parliament, some of which are simply alterations to current laws. I would say scrapping 0 hours contracts, empowering everybody with rights at work from day one. Those things are doable. And why? Why should we prioritise them? Because what we need to do is to give every ordinary British person, everybody who lives here, a stake in the survival of the Labour government.
You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab and email. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on the links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all my morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio, that's EHRADIO, A Radio, and please click on the like button. And you can find all my podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com and click on the Morning Moments tab.